Hello, welcome everybody. Sorry for the slight delay. See the attendance numbers picking up. So good that you could join us for the second webinar today. I've been joined by a couple of more senior UFLs. My name is Michael Baxter. I am a 2020 HR UFL here at Unilever, and I'm being joined by a couple of other UFLs who are a bit more senior to me on the program. And so right now I'm just going to hand over to them and let them introduce themselves. So starting with Mohau. Mohau, over to you.
Hello everyone. My name is Mohau Lichiko. I am a third year UFLP. I currently work in category and channel development within the BPC category. I take care of the hair portfolio, so Tresemme, Dove, and organics. Yeah, that's what I do.
Cool. And then Stephen.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I am Steve Talbot. I am finishing up my UFL journey. I would say I'm in my fourth year, even though the program is comes to an end at the end of the third. And so I'm in the process of wrapping up my stint and my time on the program, which has been, I'm sure we'll have opportunity to share of our story so far, but it's been incredible. Closing off my time on the UFLP program and on an international assignment with Dove Philippines, where I have been working on the brand team. Yep, so in marketing.
Perfect,
sorry
thanks.
for the phone call in the background.
Cool. I don't seem to have video for you guys for some reason. Sorry guys, we're running into a bit of technical difficulties here. But Ruth, I'll just hand over to you to introduce yourself next. Are you there? You're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, I was having a fat chat with myself. So I'm Ruth, obviously, and I currently also on the program, of course, and I'm currently working in the BPC portfolio, so looking after male fragrances in the deodorant space. So working on Brut, which is a local heritage brand, and really exciting to work on just because of the freedom, I guess, we get to experiment with, and then also working on the BPC, Beauty and Personal Care gifting portfolio.
Awesome, thanks. And so we heard in the last webinar earlier today just how central purpose is to Unilever as a company. And so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit and ask you guys to share your purpose statements. And so I suppose we can just go in the same order. Mohau, if you want to start that off, and maybe a little bit about what that purpose statement means to you.
Thanks again, Mike. I think for Mohau personally, I think there's sort of two factors in my life that have culminated in sort of me forming my purpose statement. I think the first one is I come from a very, I'd call it, diverse background. So I grew up as a small Xhosa boy in the Eastern Cape in a town called Matatiele. I lived briefly for a few months in Gwagwa, and then I moved to Bloemfontein, and then after Bloemfontein, then I moved to Joburg in Soweto. And so I think that sort of multi-dimensional sort of, I'll call it, background. And then the second thing would be I have been a student activist for as long as I can remember. So I was involved in a lot of student activism in varsity, and sort of I think those two aspects culminated into what I'll call a purpose statement that I have at this current space, which is I see myself as a person who champions, I'd call it, minority or non-mainstream consumer insights in every work that I do. So I look to speak to those, I'd call it, voices that have, I'd call it, being not big fan expression within mainstream product marketing and product development. And so that's the purpose of Mohau. He's partly an activist, he's partly a diverse person from different backgrounds, and he tries to bring those particular elements to his work. And so whatever that task might be, I think my main duty and my main purpose would be to bring that background that Mohau has, which is what are those insights that are from the Eastern Cape, are from the Free State, are from Johannesburg. And that's basically in a nutshell what my purpose is and how I bring it to life in my work.
Sure, and that's great. And also kind of getting really deep diving into that consumer love side of things and really understanding the people that we serve. And I think that's so core to that, which I think is awesome. And then Stephen, on your side, what's been your kind of journey with purpose?
I must say that actually I really enjoyed Mahal's answer. I think in Unilever, purpose is a massive thing, and as a result, we often have conversations around what our purpose statement is and how to anchor our lives in the job that we do. But it's the first time that I've heard the purpose statement have the contextual justice of the why. So Mahal, thank you for that. Honestly, it brought it to life really nicely. And therefore, on a similar school of thought as to maybe setting context before I just give my purpose statement, similar to how Mahal did it. The concept of social entrepreneurship has always been something I've really appreciated, even before my time at Unilever, and it is something it's a concept that I hold close, and know has a big part and will continue to have a big part in my life. And so my purpose statement is birthed to that and very much aligns to Unilever as a company, and that's around making business a vehicle for social change. And so it's how can you take the private sector and do business in a way in which its benefit is not just to the profit of the company, but also to the people of the world and to the planet.
Sure. And again, that core theme of people first really coming through. I think that's been so core to and so central to everyone that I've met at Unilever. I think my favorite part of Unilever so far has definitely been the people, and just seeing how everyone is so passionate about plugging into something bigger. And that's really what we seem to have here at Unilever, which I think is awesome. And then Ruth, for you, how would you say your journey with purpose has been? You're on mute again.
Yeah. So I think for me, so obviously, I mean, purpose is very personal, and it's not always something that you figure out in 1 second. And for me, it's been a bit of a journey. But I think for me, where I've got into with purpose is something that's intrinsic both to who I am as a person, but then also the career path that I've chosen. So I've always been an avid learner. I love to read. I'm literally reading up on the most obscure things at times. But it's so much more than just reading up and getting knowledge. It's more how does the knowledge that I acquire in the different things that I read, the different cultures I expose myself to, then tie back into what contribution I can give to the world. And then in terms of my chosen career path, I chose to go into marketing because I mean the degree that I did at university could have gone a number of different ways. But I chose to go specific into marketing because I've always had a thing for how brands can really make you feel something, whether that's frustration, elation, happiness, joy, relief. And I've always had a thing for really, trying to make an impact in people's lives, no matter how small, whether it's like making their laundry day easier with a laundry bar or something, or giving them confidence with a cologne or fragrance. I've always really, been inspired by how brands can really have the ability to make people feel. And how I can play into that with, my insights into culture or, a specific consumer, and how we can really, through our brands, make their lives better. So in a nutshell, my purpose is really, in a sentence, would be armed with knowledge, create lasting change for now and for future generations. So just really in everything that I do, figuring out how this is having an actual impact on someone's life, no matter how small or big.
Sure. And again, that aspect of change and making a difference, and essentially what we're saying is, Unilever's purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. And if we're going to do that, we can't do that alone. And so a core part of our messaging at the moment, especially with this campaign at the moment, is also being around youth for change. We know that youth have always been a powerful catalyst for change. And so we really want to see people, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, leaning into that and having that impact. So Ruth, I'll stick with you and I'll just ask if there's a particular experience that really sticks out to you. Look back on your UFL journey, is there a particular experience that you can speak to that maybe just stands out to you, whether it be challenging or stretching or just a good one?
Cool. So I think one of, I would say, the coolest experience, and also was obviously quite stretching, was in my second year. My first year with the company. I got to be part of the business's second Lean Like a Startup workshop. So Lean Like a Startup is this framework within which that startups use, and it really just is about making businesses agile. Because obviously often in corporate you can get caught up in the detail and all the gatekeeping. So the Lean Like a Startup framework is really just it's geared towards helping businesses be more agile, helping employees be more agile in terms of innovations, and really making sure that our innovations are touching on real consumer needs. And we're also not sitting with something in a funnel for 18 months, but we're actually giving it to consumers as and when they need it. So in my first year, I was able to be, I was lucky enough to be part of the second workshop that we had as Unilever internally. And we were tasked with kind of looking at a sustainable packaging solution within the home care and personal care space, because obviously plastic waste is a massive thing. And as Unilever, we play in that space as well, because we use plastic packaging in some of our stuff, even though now obviously a lot of our stuff is 100% post-consumer recyclable, but it's essentially still plastic. So we were tasked at looking with what solutions we could come up with in the home care and personal care space, because those are kind of the biggest categories that play into that space. But what was really cool about it was that within this framework, it was essentially like a 10-week project, which at that time for me was unheard of in Unilever, because again, usually we sit with anything from 6 to 18 months in the innovation funnel. So it was a lot of experimentation, which is great within the workplace, really getting to think on your feet, learning how to pivot, really getting consumer obsessed and problem obsessed, and really making sure that what we're doing is not just for the good of the business, but is also making lasting change in consumers' lives, and also making lasting change in the environment. So for me, that just ticked a lot of boxes that are important to me. So the ability to learn and grow on the job, to be agile, to be flexible, to really think on my feet, and then also knowing that you're doing something that makes a lasting impact on the environment and in consumers' lives.
Sure, that is so great to also see just how well that lines up with your purpose, and the way that we can get to do that purposeful work at Unilever. But obviously it's not, it sometimes can be a bit difficult, and we get sometimes really great experiences, but sometimes challenging experiences. And so Stephen, I wanted to ask you next, kind of, if you think of a challenging time, in the program, what have been some of the kind of challenges that go with this program?
So it's tragically ironic that what has been one of my best experiences has simultaneously been one of my most challenging experiences. I've recently come back to the country from spending 6 months in Asia. I had the fortunate privilege of being able to, and I'm still finishing off that role actually, to work for Unilever Philippines and be based in Manila. And you can imagine that for the past 5 months out of those 6 months, I was in lockdown alone in a different continent. And whereas it was a perfect storm for things to be incredibly difficult from a, call it a well-being perspective, which essentially it very much was a challenge. It was still an opportunity for me to actually grow personally, but also be assured that I'm in a place where my well-being is still prioritized ahead of work, and I felt very much supported even by the extended Unilever team in Philippines, who helped with that experience. As much as I was alone in lockdown, still working, it very much felt as if I wasn't alone. So that has been my number one challenge, but also one of a landmark moment or a landmark season in my life in which I can look back and go, I've got through it, and I'm much more resilient and much more appreciative to protecting my well-being, as well as Unilever's commitment to my personal well-being, even in very uncertain times.
Yeah, and I've loved being a part of this so far. Just joining. My first day in role was first day working from home, and really coming into a new first corporate job, and coming into this and trying to figure it out, and just how supportive all the different teams have been has been really impactful for me. And I think it's great to see that everyone is facing such unprecedented times and a lot of uncertainty, and the way that we've been able to face that together really it can't be understated. Just how crucial. You know, the different teams and people at Unilever have been to that process, which has been great to see. Mohau, if I were to ask you, and we don't have a video for you, unfortunately, but if I were to just ask you, you know, what something that maybe you've learned over this, as you look back on your process, what are kind of some of your biggest learnings through the UFL journey?
I apologize for not having video. I don't know what's going on, but anyway.
So
I think the most challenging and the biggest lessons that I'll say, I think number one is I realized that the way to add value and the way to be impactful in either society, in your job, is to be yourself. And I think that's one of the main things which I'll be very, very thankful for being part of an organization that allows me to be myself. So I realized very, very quickly that the strength that Mohau has is not sitting in Mohau being this corporate guy who conforms to a type of corporate lingo or tries to conform to what he thinks is an image of what a corporate person is, but it's a Mohau who is authentically himself and tries to bring that into the space and add value through that way. I think that's when I started being very, very impactful. So I think number one, it would be that. It would be, I've learned throughout the short career that I've had to be myself, and that being myself affords me the opportunity to be impactful and to do as best as I can within the circumstances. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing that I've learned, especially being in an organization like Unilever that is, I'd call it multicultural, is that you need to have the sense of consciousness to understand that we all come from different backgrounds. We are people of different nationalities, we're people of different understandings and different worldviews to life. And it's about how do you marry your worldview with other people's worldview in a way that it can mutually be beneficial to either the organization or the two individuals who are interacting together. So I think that's the second thing. And I think this is particularly important because in general, we're living in a more connected society, in a more globally sort of orientated society where you interact with people from different walks of life. And so I think the second thing that I've learned in my career is not, and I think these two examples that I'm providing you are not necessarily technical things. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people need to understand, that a job, even though the technical aspect of it is important and being technically competent is important, the broader stuff, the leadership stuff, are what actually impacts you lifelong and impacts people that are around you. So the second thing for me would be an appreciation of people from different backgrounds. So as I told you, we are a very multicultural organization, and me being plunged or being planted in that particular context opened up my view to life and given me a broader perspective and a broader appreciation of people and understanding people from different walks of life. I think that's the second thing. The third thing and the last thing I think would be there's power in storytelling, Mike. I think that's what I've learned in my time in this organization. You need to tell your story. You need to take people along the journey. Very impactful corporate projects, if I can call it that, have always come through ways where people are telling their stories and you telling and bringing people along the way. I think people are not necessarily concerned about more what you are actually trying to deliver, although what you're trying to deliver is very, very important, but how you're doing it and how you are as a holistic person and how you are as a leader is very, very important. So I realize that. I think this is particularly important for university students because you come with this technical expertise that you have well equipped from a varsity perspective, but that is usually does not result in you being successful in the context like a work environment like Unilever. You need things that are beyond that, and I think that's what I've learned throughout my time in this company, Mike.
Sure, and I think it does all link back. You know, why are you doing this beyond just all the technical pieces and practicalities that we can put together? What is the bigger picture? What is the bigger story that we're telling? And how do we define that narrative with all the pieces that we get to pull together? Which I've loved being a part of creating so far, and kind of trying to figure out in my own head as I try to develop my own purpose statement and my own journey as I just start out on this path that you guys have been walking. So it's great to be able to hear from you guys. Stephen, I wonder if you could then share, any learnings you have, but as well as any tips that you may have for students listening in who want to possibly apply for the UFLP program.
So I want to reiterate Mahau's point. which is more to the ability to know that what is required of you in the workspace is not necessarily solely pure competency and capability, but also your approach. And I'll answer the question, but maybe at the destination of when we've got people who are joining the business, and that's when you arrive, know that you will be looked at to show up and to. I think Unilever is a place where you can bring your best self, and you're encouraged to do so, even if it's your first day or if you've been in the company for years. And so be encouraged to know that you carry leadership. Be encouraged to know that you carry your ability to tell a story and to influence people. And so when you arrive, know that isn't something reserved just for your manager or their manager. It's very much an empowered organization, even at an individual level. So be encouraged, know that you can walk into the job and know that people will look to you to add value. And so take on that accountability, take on that, it's we and Unilever, and I think, and it's very much a phrase that lives outside of Unilever, and that's around owner's mindset. So join Unilever as if you are the CEO of Unilever, and I feel that will really set you up. It will prime your mind to approach situations very proactively and in a value-adding way. And then to answer your question, Mark, around how tips to get, was your question around tips to get in or ways to build your employability?
I mean, it's anything. What's something you would want to tell students that are looking to possibly get involved with Unilever? Okay. So I would 100% tell them that, especially within, I have experience in working with other cross-functional teams. For example, Maha's in the CCD category, and I'm in a brother-sister category, marketing, and so we would have engaged together a lot, and I have engaged with other functional teams like supply chain and R&D, but specifically within the lens of marketing, I'll say that it is an opportunity for you to grow yourself laterally. It's an opportunity. Marketing is a function that, like all functions in Unilever, take your core competency and very much build on top of it in a lateral way. Fundamental business skills, fundamental, like I would even go as far as to say, without sounding too cliche, life skills of approaching situations. So it would be an encouragement to come with eyes wide open, that this is going to be a great learning opportunity to build you laterally as much as it will build you in your core function or your core competency. Sure. And then Stephen, I'm gonna stick with you. There's a couple of questions that have come through here, and so guys, if anyone wants to, please do feel free to use the Q&A facility and send through any questions. So just as we kind of wrap up over the next couple of minutes, Stephen, I want to stick with you and say, this is maybe a tough question to answer, and you'll see why, but what does the average day as a UFL look like? And a little bit about how has work been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, average day, the first thing that came to mind was problem solving and managing complexities. I think anyone who's listening in from Unilever will be very familiar with the phrase of managing complexity, because the reality is an average day comes with problems that might be new and only for that day. And so there is very much a sense of agility and trying to not only understand essentially where the problem is, but there's very much this sense of creative problem solving around finding ways to think and solve problems creatively, irrespective of the function you're in. I think that's going to be consistent. Then working remotely, you're going to have a lot of Skype calls, and people are going to be, on a lighter note, people are going to be asking, can you see my screen? Is my screen being shared? And so you'll be able to, you'll hear that in the majority of meetings, on a lighter note. But then back to a more serious note, there's a lot of projects, there's always a lot on the go. You never, in this lockdown period when we're working from home, work has not stopped, and so that gives you a creative outlet, allows you to still be focused with a lot of really interesting projects that have purpose at the core of them, and so that really adds a sense of initiative behind the work you do. I would also say in closing that a day in the job of an average UFL is that one of the fortunate privileges of being on this program is that your journey throughout the business is fast tracked, and you are given access to opportunities that someone not on the program might not have, in fact, unfortunately does not have access to. And so you carry this great opportunity of being able to maximize the opportunities that are given to you. And so often in your day-to-day is a conversation around what's next, or is there a side opportunity, a side project that's been made available to me as a UFLP that above and beyond my normal work, I also have the opportunity of being a part of. And so the average day in the life of a UFLP looks slightly different to that of a normal Unilever employee, because you are given more and you're given more opportunities. And so that's definitely a consistent. I've had access to opportunities to work with other companies. Like Ruth, I've been a part of the Lean Like a Startup workshop. I have been a part of some mentoring programs throughout, while still having my day job. And so part of your day job is also added opportunities. And so that's definitely a part of life as a UFLP.
Sure. And I think that's why I said it's kind of a hard question to answer, just because no 2 days look the same. Yeah. There's such diversity in it. But definitely a lot of collaboration, a lot of problem solving, and constantly things on the go. You get to learn that very quickly. Mohal, there's also a specific question here for you. And guys, just so you know, we're not ignoring Ruth. Unfortunately, she has dropped off the call and we seem to have lost her. We will try and get her back. But at the moment, we're going to go ahead. And Mohal, there's a question specifically here for you. And what has been the hardest struggle for you coming out of university straight into a corporate working environment?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think I will answer it in this way. I spent most of my time at university being an entrepreneur. So I used to sell fruits and vegetables in UJ and Fates at UP. That's what I used to do. So I spent more time not being in class than being in class, basically at varsity. I'm not supposed to be saying that, but anyway, that's not the point. So the reason why I said that is I'm an entrepreneur by nature, right? And as an entrepreneur, you're usually in charge of everything. So you are the marketeer in your business, you're the salesperson in your business, you're the HR person. Okay, I didn't have HR because I didn't have any employees. I was the employee. But the point is, if you're an entrepreneur, you do sort of everything within the value chain, right? Now, just imagine how coming into the organization like that with that particular background. An organization does not work like a startup, right? I think that's the first thing. And irrespective of if you were in an entrepreneurial context before, but you coming into an organization like a big organization like Unilever, you'd find that you are a very small, I'd call it part of the big machine. Now, it's very, very difficult to find an identity in that particular space. And you find that, I think in the first few months as a grad coming into that particular situation, because you are inexperienced, you don't know anything, you don't have, I would say, that the expertise to add value as yet, you feel very lost in the very beginning stages. I think I would say it comes with the job. It's going to be very difficult because you're going to have to be taught things. And I think I saw a post on LinkedIn that says people must be comfortable with not knowing. Like the CEO now of our company used to be a freshman as well. So I think the biggest challenge that you're going to encounter when you come in, you're going to see yourself as being insignificant in this big machine, which is the organization. I'm saying do not be afraid. We all have been through that. So that's the first sort of hurdle that you entice. The second one would be, there is no marks, there is no tutorials, there is no exams. It's real stuff. It's not fictional. I mean, most of us, maybe we did marketing at school and we were asked to write an essay on, I don't know, this particular company, and you got 20%, then you got the APS, then you passed the exam, then you graduated. This stuff is real. So when your manager i.e. / your lecturer type person who is overseeing you in an organization. When they say to you, Chief, go and implement this particular project, it's not fictional. There's no, it's real. And I think that mindset shift also needs to happen, that you cannot approach that in the same way that you used to approach those tasks at university. So that's the second challenge that you're going to experience, that the stuff is real and the approach is going to be different. So there is no that I must go sit alone and memorize all these things so I can write a test. You can't implement anything in a big organization like Unilever alone. So you need to, this is the third one. If you're an introvert and you cannot interact with people, you're going to need to somehow shed that particular aspect of yourself, because you can't implement anything in a big organization that has processes like Unilever without interacting with people and making sure that it's collectively delivering that particular task, if I can call it that. So that are the three main challenges that you will encounter as a grad. But I think there's easy ways to maneuver around them. If you have mentorship and the right people around you, you should be fine.
Sure. And Stephen, I don't know if you've got anything to add there as we kind of wrap up. There was another question here about how do we bring the theory of university, because obviously university, as Mahal said, there's these tests, there's assignments, there's a way to kind of track yourself, but how do you really bring that theory to practice when it comes to the UFL program? And does the UFL program allow us as graduates and students to get on the ground and learn the practical work that is required and expected of us?
Yeah, definitely. Your university degree, it would be a lot to say that it will go out of the window. I think it's a launch pad. I think it's very much a launch pad into your ability to hit the ground running. Because Unilever, like many, in fact, all multinationals and smaller companies have their own way of approaching and their own framework to approach processes and ways of working, and you will find yourself needing to align and adapt to the framework. But in order to fit into the framework of thinking and to understand it, your mold or your cement is your theoretical knowledge that you have acquired in university, and so you use it in a way that serves the way of working for your new function or in your new role. And so your university degree is an enabler. So if you're thinking to yourself, why am I working hard at university, or why does this even matter? It does. It's a great way to prime your thinking, to give you a sense of understanding, so that no matter what framework you're asked to operate in, you've got the building blocks for you to put into it to help you with that. So theoretical knowledge, Maha is right. When you enter the working world, it's no longer theoretical. You're not passing a test. This is real life. It is very real. Maha's spot on. But at least your university degree can help you maneuver real life with a level of understanding.
Sure. And obviously we've gone quite a bit over time here, but I just wonder if you guys have any closing thoughts or statements that you want to leave people with, either of you.
Well, thanks again, Mike. I apologize for going over time. Me and Stephen are very people who elaborate a lot, so we apologize for having the wrong types of UFLPs here.
I've enjoyed it, and I think the students have too.
So I think my closing remarks would be, okay, I'm from sales, right? And if you want to be part of the best sales team in not just the country, in the world, I think this is where it happens, right? There's a difference between Premier Soccer League and Champions League, right? And I literally believe, and I'm not being paid to say any of this, but if you want knowledge about what sales is from a global perspective and to be availed to global best practice, this is where you do it. Like, this is where champions in sales come and work, right? I think that's the first thing. The second thing is, do not forget who you are. Like Steve said, he's from a social entrepreneur background. I told you about my background briefly. That is the catalyst for how you're going to do well. Do not try to be or piggyback on other people's personas or other people's way of doing things. The unique you, and I think Mike being from HR knows that the reason why they chose you is not that you are like Mohau or like a Steve. They chose you because of that particular uniqueness that you're bringing. So do not forget that particular aspect of your life when you come into a big organization like Unilever or in any other organization for that matter. Yeah, I think that's it, Mike.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. And I think I just want to leave you guys as students with this. You know, I do want to say thank you to everyone that's kind of joined in for both of the webinars today. The SAGEA Career Fair is continuing on the 29th of July and on the 13th. We'll be live, 13th of August, we'll be live on both days from 10 to 3. So please do come through to our booth in any of the pavilions and do chat to us. I will always be there along with a couple of my colleagues, different times, different days. So please do come along. But as I said, you know, our purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace, and we can't do that alone. So we really encourage you. We know that youth are powerful catalysts for change, and we really want to encourage you to be that youth for change. And like I said, 10 to 3 on both the 29th of July and the 13th of August, people will be there ready in the live chat to answer any further questions you have. And yeah, hopefully you'll just enjoy the rest of your journey, and you know, maybe one day we'll be able to work together on this journey as colleagues. And so I'm looking forward to it. So thank you to everybody, and thank you, Stephen, Mohau, and to Ruth, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. Thank you guys for your time. And cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.